Hello and welcome to Bakleben. Today we are making a potato bread with spelt flour and whole wheat flour. And the special thing about our potato bread is that we make one dough and from it we create two breads with completely different flavors. For our potato bread, under the motto, one dough, two breads, we need whole wheat flour, spelt flour, water, olive oil, yogurt, in this case, the slightly richer Greek yogurt with 9% fat, salt and sugar, yeast, and 250 grams of cooked and coarsely mashed potatoes. The second variant that we make from this dough will also include feta cheese, olive oil, a bit of cream, and a small nut mixture. But we'll see that shortly when we make it into dough together. To make our dough, we start again by first putting water into our bowl, then the olive oil, the yogurt. Then we crumble our yeast into this liquid. We take the boiled potatoes. They go in as well, flour. And finally our salt sugar mixture. The whole thing now goes into the machine. Kneading time is about 6 minutes. And then we'll see how our bread is progressing. So our ton dough, our first dough, is now ready. Looks like this. A quick note about the dough itself. It has the tension it needs. It doesn't stick to the hands. That's how it should be. A tip for potato bread with boiled potatoes. At first, the dough always gives the impression that it's missing water. It doesn't emulsify nicely right from the start. Caution! Even after cooking, the potato still retains at least half of its weight in water. This means that through kneading, this water is released into the flour, and then it all comes together again. By the way, it doesn't matter at all which type of potato you use, whether you choose waxy potatoes, less waxy ones, or something in between. The potato itself generally has the same property, with the starch binding the water, sometimes 0.5% more, sometimes less. This has no impact at all on the dough preparation. Now I go ahead and divide this dough by quantity. A little less. This will be my bread with sheep's cheese, and this will be a regular potato bread. I now put this piece of dough back into my bowl. To this I now add the sheep's cheese with the olive oil and a bit of cream, and let the whole thing be briefly mixed or kneaded again, as they say. Both pieces of dough then have a 45-minute resting period, and then we continue processing it. But now I'll just show you how it looks when you incorporate this. Our two potato dough pieces have now had a 45-minute resting period. During this time, they have developed wonderfully. You can see right away they have relaxed. You can see how nicely the dough has risen. I will now briefly stretch and fold both dough pieces a little, or as I do it here, open them up round. With this, I press out a bit of the air, but not too much. If you look closely, I always only go to the end. I don't press the whole piece of dough together, but really just here at the back. From this dough piece here, a bread will soon be made in a basket. This will become a bread in a loaf pan. This is the one with the feta cheese. This is the one without. We'll give it just a few more minutes now. Relaxation time. So now, after my little treatment here, but really just a few minutes, the recipe says 10 minutes. You always have to weigh that a bit. As I said, it's the outside temperature at your home, how the dough itself has taken on a temperature. It always depends a bit on that. So it's always a bit of a judgment call. I always say 5 minutes, 7 minutes is ideal. We'll see each other again shortly. The relaxation time for our two pieces of dough is now over. They have been able to relax well again. We now place one piece of dough into such a basket, which I dust with a bit of flour. A dough piece of 550 grams goes in there. In such a box, it is 20 long. I take a piece of dough of 450 grams. It can expand a bit more. Much more would be bad because then it spills terribly over the edge. Doesn't look great anymore. We start with our loaf bread. I don't do much more there either. Here too, I am careful not to press out the proofing. I just open it a little. And that's all. And already, with my bread in the box, to stick with the board game analogy, the same happens here now. Just briefly open it a little, press the seam in, and I already have my bread just the way I want it. However, I now place it with the seam facing up in this proofing basket, so it can nicely ferment on its own. This is how my 2 pieces of dough look now. I calmly set them aside again, cover them up, and let them rest there again for a good 30 minutes, depending on your room temperature here as well. Here, I now have room temperature. I estimate we have 22 degrees here, ideal for fermenting, really great. So after that, they go into the oven. We'll take a closer look then. Our 2 pieces of dough have now rested for 45 minutes covered with a nice linen cloth that I have here. And this is how they look now. It has risen wonderfully. You can also see that it's ready because it is starting to crack on the surface here. When I press in, again my fermentation test, I press in, it goes down, comes back up, but doesn't disappear completely. It couldn't be better. I now place both pieces of dough on a baking sheet. That means with the loaf pan, yes, no big deal. I place it there. I now place a second piece of dough relatively far away from my loaf pan so that during baking they don't interfere with each other. Now I make 3 small cuts here. Here I make a lengthwise cut. They now go into the oven at 210 degrees with a lot of steam. They stay in for 10 minutes, then I release the steam. Then I leave them at 210 degrees and then gradually lower the temperature. And later we'll see what comes of it. So, see you soon. Our potato bread, or rather our potato bread, is now ready. We had a total baking time of 42 minutes. This is my potato bread. And you can hear how nicely it's done without sheep's cheese. And this is my potato bread, which is also well done with sheep's cheese and pine nuts added to the onions. Both are well baked. Both taste different, but both have a really subtle, good flavor. I hope you have a lot of fun baking along. And I look forward to having you join Bakleben again next time.